Welcome to the PFF State of the Franchise. It is your Indianapolis Colts edition. Sam, the big question, of course, Andrew Luck, to this point, hasn't thrown a real football. I don't know if we need to worry about that again this year, but the Colts' chances really hinge on Luck's health.
I mean, how much of a difference can throwing a real football make compared with a Nerf ball? As long as he's getting it to the right place at the right time, does it really matter that he's not throwing a regulation football right now?
Maybe a little bit. So hopefully Luck will be healthy and on track for next year. But if he does, it's not a great roster around him. Both sides of the ball, they still have some work to do on the offensive line. And the defense just needs playmakers. Last year felt like a whole bunch of veteran retreads, a lot of whom played well, but they just didn't have enough young talent beside them. Anything in this offseason, bringing in guys like Eric Ebron at tight end and just a few guys to potentially fill in. It hasn't been a very active offseason so far for the Colts.
No, and they've made some curious moves as well. One of the biggest moves they've made, positive or negative, was letting Rashad Melvin walk out the door, who was one of their best players last season, albeit for only half a season before he got hurt. And it was a career year that kind of came out of nowhere. Looking at his data now on premium stats that you can get at PFF Elite, last season, 552 snaps, but his career is only 1,580 snaps old. So it was really a performance out of nowhere. But he genuinely played like a shutdown cornerback last season for the time he was on the field. At the very minimum, he seems like a guy that you would want to keep in the building and see if he can repeat that. He had 3 interceptions, 10 pass breakups, allowed 52.7% of the passes thrown his way to be caught. Didn't get beaten for a pass longer than 32 yards.
Look at the other note. Look at the previous numbers. That's why he walked.
And that's true. But this is the season that showed that he has legitimate shutdown ability. And in a passing league like today, you don't let those guys go. If you've got a chance that you have a number one shutdown corner, keep him in the building. It's not like he signed a blockbuster monster contract in free agency and you just couldn't live with it financially. And even if that was the case, the Colts had all of the money at free agency. They had so much cap room, they could have kept him at an inflated price and still had money to burn. I don't understand letting Rashad Melvin leave that facility.
So looking at the rest of the depth chart, you have 2017 second rounder, a guy like Quincy Wilson, potentially stepping in at starter, maybe a Kenny Moore, who's just been, bounced around the league, and not a whole lot of big names in the secondary. So when we look forward to the draft, there's going to be a lot of needs. Cornerback's certainly going to be one of them.
Yeah, and I liked the way you described the Colts last season, which is this is the team that leads the league in players you've never heard of.
I mean, I've heard of everybody, but come on.
There were guys making the field who every week you had to go, who is that guy? And that was the Colts roster. And there's not a lot different now. They still are stocked full of guys that really don't have any business being on the field on Sundays. And they're going to have to stock up on new talent in the draft. You're right, corner, I think, is a great place for them to target. But realistically, they could go anywhere.
Look, we'll get to the draft in a minute because they have a ton of draft picks, and it can honestly be this franchise-changing draft, but we have to highlight where these holes are first.
And that's why they started moving down already. The trade with the Jets.
Which is great.
Exactly. Yeah. They know that this is a roster that's in need of serious repair work, and they're already starting to do it. Now,
on the offensive side, the offensive line's been an issue for a while, even beyond, Luck's health and what they need to do there. But with the offensive line, a couple moves that I think, could work out for them. Matt Slauson, who's been in the league since 2009, he's got more good years than bad. Unfortunately, the bad years have been the most recent ones. Yeah. Again, premium stats showing me only 400-something snaps in a pretty poor 7 or 8 games last year. But, if he could slide in, play some quality snaps at guard, or Jack Mewhort, who they bring back, has just had this injury-riddled career, but when healthy, has been pretty good. So creeping back toward average is the line that we always use about offensive lines. They're bad right now. Can they creep back toward average enough to at least be not a liability?
Mewhort, I think, is a good player when he's healthy. Slauson, I think, was a good player back in the day.
Right.
But the danger for the Colts, I think, is that they've just signed him too far on the decline, too far on the downslope of his career, and they're probably not going to get a player that'll dramatically help that unit with Slauson.
A couple skill position players they bring in. Eric Ebron, tight end from the Detroit Lions. Still pretty young, but hasn't really lived up to that top end of the first-round hype. Ryan Grant, after his failed physical with the Washington Redskins, he's going to come in to join T.Y. Hilton in that receiving corps. Still have some work to do there, but I think, a couple solid additions. nothing that, again, is going to, completely change this offense.
Yeah, again, nothing that's going to prevent you from drafting some significant talent. So at some point, if the right player falls to them in the draft. I mean, the big thing for the Colts is that they have so many holes that they can go anywhere. They can just literally stick to their draft board, take the best player available, and there's almost no position where that guy can't upgrade as long as they make the right evaluation.
So let's look at quarterback, because if Andrew Luck does have health concerns, Jacoby Brissett stepped in last year, did an okay job, and you always called him?
Intriguing.
Remained intriguing, right?
Remained intriguing.
So every single week he remained intriguing enough. Still don't know if he's a long-term starter in this league. He goes, if Luck is healthy, he might be the best backup in the NFL, but I don't know if he's a guy that I'm going to put the franchise on his back and really believe in him. If something does go wrong in Luck's rehab, are the Colts all of a sudden in the QB market at the top of the draft?
Not this year, because the way I see it is that even if something does go wrong with Andrew Luck's rehab, you're probably not going to know about it until June, July, August, when suddenly he's the same as last year. He was on track, hadn't been throwing a ball yet, but don't worry, when we get to August, he'll pick up the Duke and he'll start slinging it. And that was the thing. It wasn't until you got to August and suddenly he's still not capable of picking up the ball that it became a problem, and then you had to shut him down for the season. The same thing is going to happen this year. Either he's going to be on track and the medical professionals had it nailed and that was the way it was going to be, or we're going to get to August again and suddenly Andrew Luck is still throwing the Nerf ball and we've got problems. But at that stage, the draft is done. You just give the reins to Jacoby Brissett, and it's his team for the next year. This year, they have to proceed, I think, as if they're going to have Andrew Luck, and if they don't, Jacoby Brissett is good enough to be a serviceable starter for 2018, and you build a team around him, because this is a roster that needs an overhaul. So let's do what the Cleveland Browns did a year ago. We will build the roster first, then we'll try and find the quarterback. So the Colts at the moment don't know if they need to find that quarterback. They're going to build the roster first, and then we'll reevaluate in 9 months and see if we're in the quarterback market.
Well, they're in a good position because they're picking at 6. As you said, they traded down from 3. So they have the sixth overall pick, 2 second-rounders, and a third-rounder. My most recent 3-round mock had them taking Josh Jackson out of Iowa, cornerback, that we like a little bit more than everyone else. Again, so that fits a position of need. Andy's an outstanding player. I think running back has been a place where, they have Marlon Mack, who I think is a good change of pace guy, big play threat. I gave them Darius Geis in the second round, and another LSU guy, Arden Key, in the second round, who has some off-field issues, but the upside as far as rushing the passer is there. So to me, this draft is all about adding defensive playmakers, and if the right skill position players or the right offensive linemen fall, you grab those as well. Like you said, you could kind of go any which way here.
Yeah, and it's an ugly draft for edge rushers. So I don't know they're going to go there with Arden Key. I don't even know if they're going to go interior defensive line, because I don't think it's a great interior defensive line class either. The strengths in this draft class are cornerback. The strengths are linebacker. There's some really good players. Running back is another one. There's some great players at those positions that they can get much better value with, I think. So if they look, Geis is a great pick if he falls to the second round. I think the NFL is higher on him than we are a little bit. But even if it's not Geis, if they can get a Nick Chubb in the second round, or even a Royce Freeman in the third, a Rashad Penny could be around the second and third round. There's some really good running backs they can get in the mid-rounds to go with Marlon Mack and really transform that running game. Cornerbacks are going to be available all the way through this draft. They can do a real number on this roster, get a lot better, even if it's not in a couple of key areas.
Yeah, so that is the way you rebuild the roster. You stock up on picks and pick the best players. And my advice for Colts fans, you go get your PFF draft guide as part of Edge. You find the draft board, and you just say, best available on the board, that's the guy I want for the Colts. That's what we're doing. We're rebuilding the Colts here. The roster's not great right now, but they're in great position to really turn things around in the draft. Hopefully, Andrew Luck is healthy as well. And if he is, maybe they sneak up on some people next year because Luck can carry them. That is your Indianapolis Colts State of the Franchise. It's been powered by PFF Elite.